Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at Daredevil number 220. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Daryl. I'm the host of Read Your Comics. Today I'm going to be looking at a David Mazzuchelli masterpiece that is not part of Born Again. But before I do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the viewer support. All your likes, comments, and shares are much appreciated. And I get a lot of viewers that are repeat viewers, but they aren't subscribed. So, hit up this graphic right here and do these things. Just go ahead and do them. That way you don't miss any future videos. But let's jump into this awesome issue. I should say this is a heavy issue. It's got a lot of heavy tones to it. Frank Miller gets all the credit for making Daredevil more mature, but man, Denny O'Neil in this issue, it hits pretty hard. Okay. Awesome cover. I think this is probably one of Mazzucchelli's best Daredevil covers. It's got some weird coloration happening right here where it's trying to make this fog in the city moving in and kind of half covering him up to, obscure his figure. And it's just the printing technology of the time makes it not great in this area. But still, I love the look of Daredevil. I'd like to see this in the original black and white pencils. I'm sure it's just, I bet this isn't even colored at all. I mean, this comes through clear and focused, and this does too, but the texture that he uses for this is impressive, and I wonder how he did that. I feel like it's maybe a brush that he dabs down on it. I don't know, but it's throughout the issue, so really kind of pushing boundaries with that too. I can't think of another issue where they tried to do heavy fog or smoke throughout the entire issue. I mean, obviously a villain like Mysterio or even the Green Goblin or somebody like that will throw out a big puff of smoke or whatever to obscure vision. But I think for the entire issue, the way this is done is it was really pushing the boundaries of what a comic artist was capable of doing given the printing technology of the time. The story is called Fog. It's by Denny O'Neil. Art, David Mazzuchelli. Usually when they say art like that, they mean pencil and inking together. Christy Scheel is the colorist on this one. Old-time letterer Joe Rosen. He's been around forever. He does a great job. Love the way this says fog. Did Joe Rosen do this, or did Mazzuchelli do this? I'm going to say Mazzuchelli did that. So, what an opening page here. It's not like a superhero fighting somebody in the opening page, but there is a lot of raw human emotion going on right here. The tipped over martini glass, and even the way it's rendered, where you can kind of see her arm through it. The look on her face as she's calling Matt on the phone and, pleading for help or I'll die. And this does say special thanks to Frank Miller. So maybe Frank Miller gave some input on this issue. You've even got the alcohol bottle in the background, really implying that she's got a problem going on, right? So this is Heather Glenn, and Heather Glenn has been Matt Murdock's on again, off again love interest for probably the last, probably close to 60, 70 issues. I guess at this point they were broken up and she was making her return again. But ultimately, this is just going to be another chapter in the tragic love life of Matt Murdock. Stuff like this is some of the things I think Mazzuchelli just excels at. Is, I don't want to say the mundane, but these the figure work of the mundane. So Matt's waking up, which is kind of odd. Why isn't he out being Daredevil at this time of night? Waking up, he's like, Heather, do you know what time it is? I like how they get his watch out for the blind that he's able to touch and see what time it is. I think that's a nice detailed touch to it. The lighting, where his face is obscured because it's dark in the room. Not that it matters to him either way. And then the lighting, of course, changes for Heather. And man, she's looking rough. She's looking rough right there. And she's pouring herself another drink. At first, he's like, I can't get out. It's I can't get a cab. She's like, you don't need a cab. Daredevil doesn't need a cab. She knows he's Daredevil. And he's like, okay, I'll come help. So look at even this panel here where he's rubbing his head. That's that's the gesture of somebody who's feeling the stress. That's just the gesture of somebody who's feeling the stress of this phone call that he just took, right? So again, this is where I was saying, this is pushing the boundaries, I think. He must have been using a brush is all I can figure on this. It's not exactly splatter, or maybe it is. Maybe he taped off the pages, like taped off the lines to make these building edges, and then kind of splatter painted, or maybe he did just like dab a brush on there. But the texture is everywhere in this issue, and it works perfect to create this illusion of the fog. And in this, it explains Daredevil's powers for one, but it also explains how this cold front came through and has affected the city. And it's like a heavy fog that's sitting there for like a day or two. So even though, usually the sun just burns off the fog, but this fog is heavy in here, and it's going to sit for like at least a day goes by, I believe. So Daredevil, he's swinging on his way, and he says how like the fog does kind of mess with his senses because it's so thick, the moisture's so thick in the atmosphere, it kind of throws off even his radar a little bit. And as he's going, he hears some commotion in one building, feels like a domestic thing going on, and he's thinking, I should stop, but no, Heather needs me. I've got to go check on her. And when he finds her, she's laying what appears to be almost like passed out, or maybe even he thinks she's dead. But you see the shot glass laying beside her. Even like the way her top is like coming down over her shoulder and being stretched out right there. I mean, so much. It's the fine detail of these things that I think really add to the impact of this story. So he's kind of like, okay, Heather, I'm here. What do you need? Have you been drinking? She's like, yeah, you want one? And he's like, no. It was like, you called me here. What did you need? This place smells like a sty. You said you were in some sort of danger. And she says, it was a lie, a little lie. I was afraid you wouldn't come. And then she takes another shot. If I didn't tell a little lie. And then she expresses how lonely she is and depressed. This is depression. So this is, like I'm saying, this is a heavy, heavy topic of depression. So Heather's kind of been like this throughout the issues. It's like when she's on again, off again with Matt. Early in their relationship, her father, who was like this big, wealthy dude, he died, and then he died. It was right before Frank Miller took over. But anyway, there was that going on, and then there was like a whole on again, off again with her and this guy Rico, and every time basically Matt didn't have time for her, she would go to some other dude, and it was just on again, off again. I really, out of the Frank Miller run, I hated the parts with Heather, and but she was kind of a spoiled, rich party girl in a way, and I think this is the culmination of that as like some time went by, and alcoholism is set in, and even though she even says it. Maybe right there, she's like, I've been out with other men, lots of other men, but I'm still lonely. Can't get rid of the loneliness. And I like that panel too. I like that's some zip or something right there. Matt's kind of cold. He's like, that's something you're going to have to solve by yourself. Like, we're not together anymore, is basically what he's saying. And when you're in a relationship and you part ways, there is a cutoff point for one person who kind of has to say, like, I can't help you anymore. Like, I've got to move on. You've got to move on. We've just got to part ways. And that's kind of the way he's being. But I think it's because he doesn't want to get like back in to her like full blown relationship. And probably that's what he's thinking. He's like, well, if I try to help you through this loneliness, you're dependent. You're becoming dependent on me. Great panel of her eye, close up, crying from that angle and stuff. I mean, every panel in this issue is so well thought out that I don't know. There's some earlier Mazzuchelli issues where it feels pretty much like, typical work. And this issue almost feels like it's like a crossing point into what we would think of as far as like Born Again and Batman Year One would eventually be. But at this point, he has honed that craft, this storytelling craft. So he leaves and he goes back to check on that domestic abuse thing, and it turns out the woman got killed. He's feeling some guilt that he should have stopped to help that when Heather didn't really need help. And that's going to eat at him. Again, we got that fog technique. Anytime he's outside and the fog technique is going on, I love it. It's a great shot of this guy firing in the fog. He doesn't even know where he's shooting. And Matt, Matt's got a little temper on him. When something is really making him feel emotional, he's going to take it out on these dudes. So then when he gets home, the phone rings again, and it's Heather again. Save it. Because of you, I didn't do something I should have done, and a woman died. And he just rips the phone out. I'll die too. And he's just not going to listen to her, but it's going to eat at him. He's going to feel the guilt. Great establishing shot using that fog technique. Man, he found a great way to do that. And then he goes to work the next morning. So again, this fog is setting in, and it's like, even though the sun's out, the fog's still there. So they kind of explained it in the first issue. It'd be interesting if like Spider-Man had an issue dealing with this fog as well. I don't think that happened. Foggy he asked where Foggy is, and she says that he went to go check on Heather because she called there, and Foggy goes there and he's like, Matt, you need to come in, and Heather has killed herself. This panel and this panel, I mean, the emotion and the weight of these two panels, I think, are really the standout points of this whole issue. And this is all you need. You just need to see her feet dangling, right? We don't need to see a shadow on the wall or anything. It has conveyed what is happening there. So, on a side note, I've been actually reading the Daredevil run with my kids, and that early stuff, while maybe a little bit more mature than, say, what was happening in Spider-Man or X-Men at the same time, it's still PG-13 enough, and like the themes to it are surface level enough that I think it's okay for kids. But man, this issue is not one that I plan on reading with them for this reason. Like, I think the topic of depression and suicide is too much for them to like really grasp right now. I can't imagine reading this at like 10 years old and really understanding exactly what had happened here. So it puts Matt into his own state of depression, and he goes, for a walk to think about like where things went wrong, how he could have helped. And there was also a smell in the room that he noticed. There was something else in the room that he didn't think about in the moment because he was in such shock, that maybe would imply that she didn't kill herself, but that she was murdered. So that sends him on a little bit of an investigation here. Mazzucchelli's really good at these like upshots like that. I mean, nobody does nostrils like Gil Kane, but Mazzucchelli's pretty good at it too. So did he already talk to Foggy? No, it's here that he talks to Foggy. So he goes back to her room. He finds these cigarettes in there. There's a safe. The safe is empty. So again, now there's stuff alluding to like, oh, maybe she didn't do it to herself. Maybe there's more foul play involved. So he goes to talk to Foggy, and this is where they discuss like settling the estate of her father back when he died, and that he had some patents and stuff. And he's like, what's this all about, man? And he's like, I'll tell you in the morning. Oh, and then we got a nice scene of Daredevil going to the bar scene. It's a good use of the fog technique to put Heather's face in there when she wasn't so strung out. So he goes to Josie's, and we get to see Turk and Grotto in there. He doesn't really call them by name, but you get the smokiness of the bar. Now, again, that's something that we have seen a lot of, is smoke in the bar, and it's usually just wispy lines. But he's going to employ a little bit of this fog technique, just ever so slightly, into the smokiness of the bar. And of course, a bar scene with Daredevil, it could go on for a couple pages, but he ends it pretty quick. Now this was a little weird. So they tell him he can go to this place where the suspect that he thinks is going to be Heather's, potentially her murderer, is. And it's got these security systems, and one of them is this like heat sensing camera. So he takes these big bags of ice to basically hide from these heat sensing cameras. And I'm watching that and I'm like, I don't think it works quite like that. Like, it may cover up right there where the bags of ice are, but this part would still be there on the heat. Anyway, that part, this page kind of took me out of the story. I think the whole avoiding heat sensing cameras stuff could have been left out. So he basically goes to confront these dudes that he thinks maybe killed Heather to steal these patents. Nice shot of Daredevil there. Just a standard pose. And he didn't make him have to like... I like this shot of him just standing in the doorway as opposed to being like crouched down or in like a fighting pose, as he kicks in the door. This just seems like how it would really be. Like, just, I'm here. You guys I'm going to give you an opportunity to like basically stand down. Of course they don't. Nice whip or thwip over the billy club, and he takes these dudes out. Good choreography here. Mazzucchelli's pretty solid at that. He did it earlier in the issue, just swinging through the city. Now we get a little bit more of a fight scene that could have been done in the bar, but would it have been necessary to do it in the bar and then do it again right here? Probably not. Yeah, the more I look at this, I think I've figured out how he did it. Maybe. I think he just taped down like areas and then hit it with maybe it's an airbrush even. Maybe it's like a quick of an airbrush. Or dabbing the brush. I don't know, but like to get these, it's not like a straight edge, but it's got like a softness to it. It works really well. And then, mask of areas right there for the buildings in the distance. It works so well. Look at Daredevil with a gun shooting the lock off. Had a ricochet bullet bounced off the lock and nicked me. I forget where I think that comes into play. Yeah, because the wound has muddled his senses enough to let this guy get the drop on him for like a second, to get one hit in, right? Just so it's not so one-sided with Daredevil. And then there's no dialogue here. I found that interesting. Daredevil knocks him out or, punches him, but there's no dialogue between them. There really wasn't much dialogue even up here. Yeah, there's no dialogue on this page, and there really wasn't much dialogue even over here about him even accusing them of Heather. All of a sudden, though, after the beatdown, he just says, "But I did not kill her." So I guess he went there. He went there and at least took the patents or whatever he wanted from her, but he's saying he didn't kill her. And he was, before the dialogue, all of a sudden was like, yeah, it was unfortunate. And he's saying he didn't kill her. So again, leaving it open to the interpretation that she really did just kill herself. And there was just enough foul play involved to send Daredevil on this side adventure, right? And that's pretty much it. But there's some great, not great dialogue, but just dialogue about Matt kind of still completing his emotions about the whole situation. Foggy with a mustache kills me. I like this panel here. I like the magenta choice with the duotone gradient going in. And even here with like the shadow from his glasses, but you can still see his eye right there. It's subtle enough that it really works. And this feathering on the shadow feels very Gene Colan-ish even. But great issue by Mazzuchelli. Awesome cover. Very heavy topic and theme of depression, loneliness, and alcoholism. All wrapped into this single issue. So heavy issue for Daredevil. Probably one of Denny O'Neil's best in his run, and really one of Mazzucchelli's best too, aside from the Born Again issues. Anyway, until next time, read your comics. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my breakdown of this issue, you can support the channel by hitting subscribe. It costs you nothing and helps other comic fans find the channel. You can also visit readyourcomics.com for cool merch, like this. Read Your Comics isn't just a brand, it's a mantra. And when you wear a Read Your Comics shirt, you are helping spread the word. For more classic comics conversation, be sure to follow me on Instagram at read.your.comics. And if you're still here, why not watch one of my older videos? Here or here.